All right, so yesterday, news would have broken about possible match fixing in Trinidad and Tobago football, and also that FIFA has some representatives in Trinidad investigating players, coaches, different people about the allegations of match fixing. Now, I would say when I initially heard about it, I was like, who even gonna pay attention to Trinidad and Tobago football that much to even bet on it? But I obviously have a couple connections and I reached out to people and they said that despite what I may think, which is probably a little bit naive, this is a big business and people do unscrupulous things to get any little advantages. So I was like, okay, Trinidad and Tobago football. All right, I really didn't think so. But then I saw an article came out and I want to kind of go through that article a little bit because it really has some information there that I didn't know really stood out to me. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm trying to read from the article itself. So the article was by Carlyle Mitchell, who former national player and has played for several teams in the TTPFL. So he says, everybody is to blame for the match fixing scandal which has rocked Trinidad and Tobago football over the past 2 weeks. At least so says Carlyle Mitchell. So again, this is not my information. This is information that came out in a Guardian media post from Carlyle Mitchell, a former Joe Public, Caledonia AIA and national defender who admitted to being approached by match fixers during his playing days. Pointing to players, the TTPFL, the clubs and the style of management at the club level, Mitchell admitted to a glossier TT Pro League financial in the past. The league was partially managed by former FIFA vice president, and he talks about Jack Warner, where he says that no player received less than 6,000. That was like a minimum cap for players, enabling them to then go to banks to get loans and mortgages. Saying that these players are accountable to themselves, Mitchell noted the packages being offered, coupled with hefty fines, opens the doors for players to seek survival by other means. What does that mean? Let's get in. So match fixing is a thing that happened not today or yesterday. It happened a long time ago, but it's more visible to the league now. You understand what I'm saying? The reason being that back in my day, it was no Joe Public. You couldn't come to know Joe Public players with any match fixing because the type of money they were getting back in those days, 2008, 2009. No match fixing. People couldn't come to buy us because we got proper salaries, 10,000 and up, which would have been pretty decent salaries, livable salaries, even in those days. So now, where the league is, the state of the league, and the state some teams are in, and this part was kind of alarming to me, where players get $1,500 or $2,000, and then we start to get even more income. And these players, no, I'm not siding with the match fixing thing, but they're showing how match fixing is coming about. So again, I went into a group chat and was talking, and somebody explained to me that, yeah, some players get like 2,000, 3,000 TT a month, and also they have contracts only for the period of time that the league is running, which again I didn't know. I may have been a little bit naive to that. So if the league runs for 5 months, the players get, let's use an example, 3,000 for 5 months, and that has to sustain them for the year. Think about that, 15,000. Which is why some players do other things, some players have jobs, some players possibly get caught up in match fixing. I am against match fixing, but because it's a disgrace to the game, you understand. But when you want to pay players that type of money, and then don't even give them money on time, so that's our next issue that we're talking about. The small money that the players gain. I know for a fact right now that there are some clubs who have not been paid for last month. So these players have not gotten their money. I know that there are referees who haven't gotten their money. I know that there are clubs who are fighting for subventions. So you leave them no other choice but to find something else to give them money. And then one person in the group was kind of pointed in talking about how those finances could be broken down, because now an apartment is 1,500, 2,000. Then most probably the player has a family, the player has a young child, and these expenses obviously add up. So when you're talking that type of money, and then again, how it was explained to me, these players are approached and given a lump sum of money and asked to play a certain way, whether it be to win a game, to lose a game, to get other players involved. So yeah, there are avenues where the money could be used and brought into the game, and they are targeting the weaker teams, and that was before they started targeting the weaker teams. But now, and that was before they started targeting the weaker teams. But now they're targeting the whole league because nobody is getting paid. Again, these are statements that are made by a former player who has been through the ranks, so he would have seen it. On Monday night, a meeting was held between the 12 participating teams, their representative, Philip Fraser, and officials from the TTPFL to discuss the conditions of the league, which will see one team demoted to Tier 2, and while the top Tier 2 team is promoted, as well as unpaid wages for February and going into March. So there was a meeting held to try and rectify the finances of these people, the players, the clubs. Too little, too late. The season is almost over. I didn't get to see today's game, so I don't know what happened with the Eagles and Point Fortin game. I'll probably go and follow up on that. But I think the season is over. One team is going to be relegated, most likely Civic. And I saw Steve David said that he is kind of frustrated with what is going on in the league also. He most probably will be taking Point Fortin Civic out of the TTPFL. What that means, we don't know. So it's really more an issue of we could potentially be losing players also, because again, the league has failed the players, the TTPFL has failed the players, and they now have to resort to different means again, finances. And later on in the article, it talks about how some players from different countries and clubs have received lifetime bans. So if these allegations are founded to be true, or if there is any truth in any way, who knows, players could be fined, they could be suspended, or again, lifetime bans. Again, this really brings the league, Trinidad and Tobago football on a whole, it casts a bad light upon it. So really hope that these things get rectified soon. There's one paragraph here that's also kind of interesting. Last weekend, however, video footage began circulating showing proof of match fixing. So again, somebody has video footage and it's been seen. This coincidentally was followed by news that FIFA officials acting on allegations of match fixing for the past few years entered the country to investigate. So again, we don't know how deep this goes. We don't know who will be we don't know what would change. We don't know if results would change from last year. I spoke to one person who formerly owned a club, and they said if you be realistic and you're paying 5,000 a person for 25 players, and then the rest of the backroom staff with their salaries, it could be anywhere within 200,000 a month that you have to put out. So is it feasible?